Hello everyone. In this session, we want to talk about Windows Firewall with advanced security. Windows Firewall is included within Server 2012. And what Windows Firewall does is protects your network against internal threats and external threats. By internal threats, we mean threats that come from your local network itself, whether it be an antivirus or whether someone intentionally wants to destroy your data, destroy your files. So we have a set of rules that are configured. Now, these rules can be configured locally on the server or on a client machine, or the rules can be configured with group policy. Windows Firewall has what is called the Host-Based Firewall. And the Host-Based Firewall is the firewall that is configured on the host computer itself. It runs on the local computer. And on a computer, you have traffic going out and you have traffic coming in. So what the firewall does is filters that traffic as it comes in and it goes out. And you, the network administrator, get to say which traffic goes out and which traffic comes in. So we have the filtering of both incoming and outgoing traffic. You also have IP security protection on data that is going in and data that is coming out. Within group policy, you're able to configure rules to control the network traffic. You can also import or export policies. We want to look at Windows Firewall profiles because Windows Firewalls allows you to divide up your firewall settings into profiles. We have the public profile, we have the private profile, and we have the domain profile. Each of these profiles are simply a set of rules which would be applied to a type of profile. For example, you have the public profile. The public profile is usually the internet. When you are connecting to a network that you don't trust, that's untrusted by your network, you categorize that as public. And by default, your client computer uses the public profile rules. And this profile is the most restrictive of the profiles. And then you have a private profile. And this, again, is a set of rules that are configured for a private network. And you would have to, when you're setting up your firewall, you would have to identify that your network is a private network. And once your network is private, then the private profile rules will apply to your network. And then there is the profile, which is a domain profile, which you would use when your computer is a part of the network. And when your computer is a part of the network, then what happens is the profiles for the domain, which would probably be group policy profiles, are applied to the computers on the network. Now, this setting cannot be changed and no other networks can be placed in this particular category for the domain profile. You are the domain administrator. You have the default domain profile. You can go in and you can make changes on inbound and outbound rules for that particular profile. Let's take a look here at what we have. We have a server, and this server is connected to both the internal network here and the perimeter network. So therefore, we can apply the domain firewall profile to the internal network and the public or private firewall profile to the perimeter network, so that all three of the profiles can exist simultaneously on the network. Let us take a look at group policy to see how these profiles are set up. We're going to click on Tools, Group Policy Management. We want to expand Contoso, and here we already have a firewall policy GPO, so we're going to right click on that GPO and click Edit. Computer Configuration, Policies, Windows Settings, Security Settings. And here we have Windows Firewall with Advanced Security. So we're going to double click on Windows Firewall with Advanced Security. And over on the left pane, we want to expand Windows Firewall with Advanced Security. And under that, we can see the icon for the Windows Firewall. We're going to right click again on Windows Firewall with Advanced Security. And we're going to click on Properties. And here we can see the different profiles. We start with the domain profile. To configure that, you have it as not being configured in this policy. You will simply click the down arrow and say on, which is recommended. Or you could say off, or you could leave it at not configured. And then let's click on the down arrow again. We want to choose on, so we're gonna choose on there. And then we have the inbound connections, and you can choose to configure those. Block is the default. You can say block all connections. You can say allowed. You can also do the same thing with the outbound connections. Then you have your private profile. You could turn that on as well, and that's on here. And the public profile, you can turn that on. So if you want to turn on all the profiles, then you can, if it is that your server is connected to the internal network, is connected to a private network, and is connected to a public network. Each of these profiles have their own specific rules that are applied to each profile. So if you know that you have computers in the internal network, you want to use the domain profile, you can configure that. So you don't have to configure all three. If the network is private, then you go again, you right click, Properties, and you click on Private. And that is the one that you want to be on. If it's a public profile where you have users coming into your network from outside, you might want to configure that one. And then there is also the domain profile. If the computers are connected to a network, that is the profile that you want to turn on. So those are your three profiles. Please pay attention to what category they fall under and under what circumstances you would configure each of them or all of them. That is the end of this session dealing with Windows Firewall profiles. Thank you for listening.